expert, Professor Mary Metcalfe, says the responsibility for ensuring that there's adequate capacity for public schools, lies with the Provincial Education MEC. It says a number of provinces battle to place all grade 1 and 8 pupils as the new academic year kicks off. We're joined by Professor Metcalfe now. She's with the University of Johannesburg and is a senior research associate there. Professor Metcalfe, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. You know, I think before we get into part of what leads to the difficulties that result in pupils not being placed, there's this debate about whether or not the online placement of learners is better than the walk-ins that one would normally see. As somebody who's been really in the field of education for a very, very long time, do you think it matters how these applications are processed?
It's a wonderful starting question, Kathy, because I think that the online system has amazing advantages. That's the first point. We can talk about what those are. As long as all parents who are required to use it have access to the data and the tools to be able to use it. And then the third point is that as long as my mind just went blank, sorry. So as long as the parents can use it and as long as the technical problems are resolved, because what we're seeing are too many technical problems. My biggest concern is that the focus on the online system has created, and the difficulties with that, has created an impression that we've got a national crisis, and I don't believe we've got a national crisis. We've got a problem with online registration in those provinces which are having difficulties. So that helps frame.
For many parents who found themselves queuing outside district offices, taking a chance of the late application processes, or those who said, well, we've used the online system and it simply hasn't worked for us, they're calling, of course, for the return to the old system. Do you think that that is necessarily an answer to the kind of problems we're seeing in Gauteng, in the Western Cape?
Well, firstly, I think that we've got to recognize that the online system means that parents don't have to go from school to school. What we've seen in the past of parents queuing physically at schools, at every school, in order to get admission, has had several negative consequences in addition to the inconvenience to the parents. It also means that the admission processes in many of our schools really ate away at least the first week or two of schools, because principals, SMTs were constantly dealing with the question of admission, admitting learners, and every day counts, especially under COVID. With the online system, however, there is, I think, a complex interaction between where parents would ideally love their children to go to school and the spaces available at those schools. And that is a painful thing for many families, that they can't get access to their preferred choice, forgetting that the way in which, at least in Gauteng, this is governed is with the notion of a feeder system, that children should go to schools in the area in which they live for multiple reasons. Now, that in itself is quite contested, because parents may perceive that schools in areas other than where they're living are firstly more desirable because they have the facilities. There's complicated family dynamics about where the parents live, where the siblings go to school. So you need sensitivity in dealing with those realities of families' circumstances as well as the aspirations. And that's why I think the education departments are putting so much effort into trying to resolve the problems. But I think we're also seeing lots of technical problems. Let's sort out those technical problems. Let's make sure that all parents give a first, second, and third choice and don't set their heart on a particular school which may have more applications than is practical to consider.
The reason that we have been getting, particularly from a province like Gauteng, year on year, where there are hundreds of learners that are yet to be placed on the first day of school, is that they're dealing with an unpredictable situation of migration. So they cannot predict how many new learners they're going to have trying to enter the education system in this province. Is there a bit of negligence on their side, or is it a fair argument for them to be making?
Okay, so there's two things in relation to Gauteng. Number one is, it appears to me, and I haven't seen the data, Equal Education has done a very useful publication called No Space for Us, where they've reported on, I think it was Itwatwa. And I know that in that documentation, the department says there isn't a problem, but Gauteng receives a large number of new learners every year, during the year and at the beginning of the year. And my sense is that Gauteng does have a shortage of classroom spaces. Classes are full. Nobody's being excluded. There's a space for everyone, but classes are full, and we need to accelerate the school building program in Gauteng. In terms of the new learners in Gauteng, in provinces where urban centers are receiving in-migration as a consequence of urbanization, changed economic circumstances, loss of job opportunities, searching for new opportunities, there is a drift towards the cities. It will affect Cape Town, it will affect Gauteng, and it will affect big centers elsewhere. My sense is that that is not the problem in Gauteng. Whilst there is constantly a need for new schools, Gauteng, I think, can be on top of that. Most provinces are learning how to make very quick adjustments to creating temporary accommodation or transport where new settlements arise. Gauteng seems to be a combination of the general fullness of schools, because we need more schools in Gauteng, but more, I think, the sense of, I want my child to go to this particular school. I believe it's a good school. It will be good for my child to go to that school. And the technical glitches, because some of the stories that are reported are inexplicable, and parents need to give the department time to sort out where there's technical glitches.
Professor Metcalfe, you talk about the issue of accountability and specifically pointing to the need to have infrastructure that is built that keeps up with the growth of the population. Let's take a broader look at where we are in the country. Of course, we've come out of a period where we're facing increasing budget cuts to base level spending across departments, and the Education Department has not been exempt.
In fact, Kathy, it's an excellent point, because under the COVID crisis of starting in 2020, what happened was that there was as much as 5 billion rand across the country, across the provinces, that was shifted from the infrastructure budget and the emergency water and sanitation. It was shifted away from infrastructure towards emergency water and sanitation and PPE. So we are going to see an ongoing problem in terms of keeping up with our current commitments. But education is compulsory in this country. That means that because it's a public good, the department has to make sure that every child of compulsory age has access to a classroom. We need to make sure that all departments are accelerating their building program, accepting that to conceptualize, plan, deliver, build, hand over a school is a 3 or 4 year process. It isn't overnight. We need to accelerate the building program. We need to really keep in touch with the data that's available from Stats SA and local government data, so that we are constantly planning for schools in new settlements. And then the online system needs to be improved in the technical application of this innovation, so that learners and families don't get stuck just because of the technicalities.
So,
and then lastly,
Kathy, no, go for it.
Thank you. Is that, of course, people want what they believe to be the best school for their child. But we can't assume that the schools let's say schools in the townships are not necessarily good. In Gauteng, if you look at the NSC results, some of the best results are coming from township schools. Let's not assume that we have to move away far from where we live in order to find a good school. And secondly, we must make the schools where we live schools of quality by working with the school community. And I would love it, I know this is a bit idealistic, but I would love every community to say, I'm determined that our local school is going to be excellent. We're going to work with the school governing body, we're going to work with the school staff, and we're going to make our school as good as any school anywhere else in the country. We're going to have the sporting facilities we need. We're going to have the environment that we need. We want to be proud of our school.
Senior Research Associate at the University of Johannesburg, Mary Metcalfe. Let's leave it there for tonight. Thanks for your time.